Capitalist Realism, Is There No Alternative? Is a book by Mark Fisher, an English cultural theorist, which examines the phenomenon of capitalist realism, the widespread belief that the capitalist system is the only viable economic and political system. The book argues that this belief has become so pervasive in our culture that it has become the default setting for how we think about the world. Fisher argues that, by accepting this view of the world, we have become prisoners of a system that is ultimately self-defeating. Fisher argues that capitalist realism has had a significant effect on our culture, leading us to accept the status quo and to reject any alternatives as utopian. He claims that capitalist realism has created a malaise in our society, leading to a kind of resignation and apathy. He also argues that capitalist realism has had a negative effect on our mental health, leading to a rise in depression and anxiety. Fisher argues that in order to overcome capitalist realism, we must first develop an understanding of how it functions and how it has come to dominate our culture. He also claims that we must challenge the idea that capitalism is the only viable economic system and that we must create alternatives to the current system. He calls for the creation of a new kind of politics, one that is based on principles of solidarity and collective action rather than competition and individualism. In the book, Fisher seeks to provide us with a way out of the malaise of capitalist realism. He argues that, by recognizing the flaws of the current system and developing alternatives, we can create a more just and equitable society. He also suggests that we must be willing to challenge the status quo and take risks in order to create a more equitable and just society. Ultimately, capitalist realism, Is There No Alternative? Is a call to action. Fisher argues that, by recognizing the flaws of the current system and developing alternatives, we can create a more just and equitable society. He calls on us to challenge the status quo and to take risks in order to create a better world. That's it. Thank you so much for tuning in.